This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Berges.
On today's live discussion, we are going to be discussing love bombing. What love bombing is. You know, love bombing is an attempt to influence somebody with demonstrations of attention and affection, and we're going to talk about what that is. We're going to talk about how love bombing, I believe, is a cycle of abuse used to manipulate and control somebody, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So I like to talk about it like psychological manipulation, because if it was love bombing consistently and there was never any devaluation, it wouldn't be a bad thing. You might be a little overwhelmed by all the smothering, but it wouldn't be a bad thing. So let's begin talking about love bombing today. Just taking a little bit of time to get some folks here for the live discussion. So, you know, it's interesting when you look back at love bombing, you look at the tactics and how it was used. It was used by pimps, cults, gangs, and also used by narcissists to control their victims as well. So this is very interesting. And it's interesting how the narcissist gains the confidence and the trust of the person I would consider the victim, and they're getting supply from this person. So the love bombing constitution is based on, in the beginning, the narcissist, for that matter, puts what I would consider the victim on a pedestal, right? So there's a lot of idolization. And this process, what happens, not only does it make the person that's being idolized obviously feel good, because many of us never got a lot of attention. Some of us didn't get a lot of love or support. Many of us have gone through some really extreme toxic relationships that have caused us a lot of harm, even PTSD. And so many times coming out of those relationships, or having been exposed to those relationships for a long period of time, dealing with a family upbringing where there wasn't a lot of love or support, it can make for a mix, obviously, of codependency, but the desire to have that attention. And that's what happens when we think about love bombing, is there's all this attention given to this person, all this attention given, all this love giving, as far as not real love, though. It's giving things, attention, trips, food, all kinds of stuff that's happening, a whirlwind type romance, you might say, and the person feels like they're swept off their feet. And it can feel really good, because if you haven't gotten a lot of attention and you haven't gotten a lot of support and you haven't gotten a lot of love in your life, you can mistake this very quickly for what you've always looked for the thing that's always been missing, for the emotion that you have never had, for that romance, for that kind of that spice that you've never been able to experience. And because many people have been longing to have an experience very similar to that, there's a tendency of eating this up and jumping right into this and feeling really good and seeing this person as a wonderful person and a savior and the best person in the world. And all this is great for the period of time that the idolization, I like to call the pedestal stage, lasts. Unfortunately, when it comes to love bombing, this stage must go away. Okay, and the next stage after that pedestal idolization, unfortunately, is the devaluation stage. Okay, and see, this is where the problem lies, is that the person that was being idolized and put on this pedestal believed that this was real, genuine affection, care, love, that they had met Mrs. Right or Mr. Right, and this was going to be the most amazing experience in their life, and this was going to be the most amazing romance, and this was probably the love of their life, and all those things were going on at that time in their mind and what they believed to be in their heart, because they were believing in this. All of a sudden, one day, that pedestal stage goes away and the devaluation stage starts. And this can be very not only odd and off-putting, but it can be frustrating. It can, and one of the biggest things that happens when the devaluation starts is the person that was once on the pedestal believes that they must have done something wrong. They believe that they must have done something wrong. Okay? I must have done something wrong. I must upset them. I must have hurt them. What is wrong with me that this person is not treating me like they were treating me? Because they were treating me so well, what's changed? What did I do wrong? Okay, now there's two ply to that. The first ply is the codependency. The codependent is always going to believe that they did something wrong to deserve some sort of negative, toxic behavior. Because that's the way that's the Constitution. As far as most of us were raised in family dynamics where we had toxic family upbringing, where we believed that we had to jump through every hoop, and the hoops that we didn't jump through, there was something wrong with us, and that our parents or our guardians had the right to treat us that way because we weren't good enough, we weren't successful enough, we weren't fast enough, big enough, strong enough. You get the point. So what happens in the devaluation stage is you begin to start questioning yourself. What happened to me? Why is this happening? What have I done? What have I done to cause this? And that can be extremely painful because there's a lot of confusion and a lot of questions and not many answers. And so that's why it's so critical to think about. And that's why it's so critical to really look at that and see the situation for what it is. The next step that you're going to deal with after the devaluation, which is the opposite of the pedestal stage. So you were the best, you could do no wrong, you were amazing, I'm going to give you all these kudos and tell you how beautiful you are and how amazing you are and how classy you are and how talented you are, and I'm going to shower you with gifts and everything, and then I'm going to pull it all away. Okay? And the next stage is the discard stage, where the person has decided that they no longer need you. The narcissist decides that they no longer need you around anymore, so they're going to discard you at this point. Now, is it always the official discard? No. Many times this is rinse and repeat. So, there was the idealization point, the pedestal, and maybe you were on the pedestal for even maybe a few months. I mean, that's a long time. And then the devaluation stage, which lasted for quite some time, and then the discard. And then this cycle could play out multiple times. However, the pedestal stage gets shorter and shorter each and every time. Okay, so maybe the pedestal stage was 3 or 4 months the first time, maybe it's a month the next time, maybe it's 3 weeks. You see what I'm saying? Then the devaluation stage, then the discard stage. And what happens in the discard stage is the person's basically leaving you and you're over there saying, I want you back. What did I do? I'll do whatever I need to do to get you back. And we're not really realizing really the abuse and the manipulation that's taking place in this relationship. So when I return, I'll be talking more about love bombing and how love bombing is very different from true love. I'd like to call love bombing the fake love. I, Ashley Berges, and Live Your True Life Perspectives, in this live discussion will be back just a few minutes.
Are you currently in a toxic relationship and unsure what the next day will bring? Have you often wondered if there's more to life than this? Do you suffer from self-esteem issues that you've had since you were a young child? Have issues or have difficulty speaking with your family? Do you feel surrounded by self-centered people? Seems as though you're always giving and they're always taking. If you've answered yes to any of these questions, you need some answers. The 10-day challenge to live your true life gives you the knowledge and techniques for creating boundaries in your life that help us to deal with family, as well as dealing with those narcissistic and toxic people in your life. It offers the insight into understanding and overcoming your self-esteem issues, and to begin to see for the first time your amazing value. You owe it to yourself to find the power within you.
Hey there, friends. Glad to be back. And today we've been talking about love bombing, what love bombing is, who uses love bombing. We'll talk a little bit about the difference between love bombing and real love. I have 3 videos coming out to discuss exactly these topics so that you can understand them really deeply and understand, like, first off, one video is going to be what is love bombing, just so we know what love bombing is. One is going to be the symptoms and signs of love bombing, which is going to be a very good video as well. That's going to really explain that. But also, I'm doing another video on the differences between real love and fake love, which fake love to me is love bombing. So very powerful video. So if you feel like you're in a situation right now in a relationship where you feel as though things are going too quick, maybe you wanted to take it slow and this person wants to take it ultra fast. For example, you just wanted to date and get to know the person, and now all of a sudden, they want to get married, or they want to take it to the next level. They want to move. They want you to move in, or you move in. All this stuff can go really quickly. And are there situations that, love, that love can happen really quickly? Yes, but remember, love takes time to really be there. So it really takes time for us to feel for other people. It really takes time for us to have that real connection. Because I think that's important to think about. So if you're feeling as though you're being pushed in really quickly, that's something that you really need to think about. Because if you're being pushed too fast in this relationship, you really need to kind of step back and say, is this really what I want to be doing? Am I happy with how fast the relationship is being pushed? And if not, remember, that's a boundary. Okay, remember that. I've talked about boundaries before. If you feel as though the relationship is going too fast and you feel as though things are getting out of hand, that's a boundary. And that's something that you need to stand up for. You need to stand up for yourself in that situation, because that's very powerful. And that's something that you really extremely want to think about in this situation. So real quick, love bombing is a seductive technique that's used. It's the idolization, devaluation, discard. It's used by many narcissists world known. It even was used back in the day by cults to get people into the cult, right? So everybody's smiling and happy. We're so glad you're here. And, we're your new family now. And we're going to take you in, and then you end up, then you're ended up in a cult, and then things seem to be changing. So that's kind of where this all came from, is that it made people feel very warm and fuzzy. But also, what else did it do? It made people very psychologically dependent on those people. So when someone takes you in and makes you feel very warm and fuzzy and gives you all this stuff and creates this environment where you feel so safe and good, and you haven't had that before, what's going to happen? You're going to like it. What's going to happen? You're going to become dependent on it. What's going to happen? You're going to really, really love these people because you feel as though you're being taken care of, and you don't realize that the carpet's going to be pulled up against you. It's going to be pulled up off the ground, and it's going to be very alarming, and it's something that you're not going to be expecting. And that's something that I really want to stress here, is that this affection comes very quick. The connection comes very quick. That's why back in the day with the cults, even now I guess there's cults right now. I guess it's not really back in the day. There are cults around the world, right? And they bring in new recruits based on giving them a place to live, having people around them, showering them with this love and giving them the attention that they didn't have. Because many people are looking for a place to fit in and a place to be loved because they haven't gotten that somewhere else. So remember, love bombing is really, that's kind of where it comes from. That's its historical reference. So with that in mind, you understand that this is something that can be very jarring. You can even feel very bamboozled at some point, because see, the problem is that it's not like you get love bombed and then you get devalued and you go, oh man, I got love bombed, and oh, I get it, it was all a game, and now I'm discarded because I'm no longer, I was supply at one time, and I get it. No, what happens is that you get love bombed and you think, oh, this is real love. And then you get devalued and you go, oh my God, what have I done wrong? I don't want to lose this in my life. I feel so great. I don't want to lose this in my life. What am I going to do? I want it back. I want to do whatever I can to get that feeling back and to get that back, right? And then you fight to get that back, but the person really doesn't, it's not real love. Okay, and so one of the things that I want to talk about real quick, because this is something that's really powerful, is that when somebody is love bombing you, one of the things that they're going to do in the process is that they are going to ask you a lot of deep questions about you. They're going to get a lot of information from you. They're going to get some deep, dark secrets from you. they're going to get all kinds of stuff from you because they're giving you all this stuff. They're making you feel like a king or a queen. And so when they ask you these questions about past relationships, sex, past marriages, whatever, you're telling them the straight up stuff about you that you probably wouldn't tell anybody else. Okay? And this is something that you really need to be aware of, is that information is super critical. Okay? Because they make you feel all that intimacy and that affection so quickly that you kind of just tell them everything. You become like the open book. And I don't want you to get hurt in this process. So you're already, unfortunately, when we get in the love bombing process and we don't realize what it is, we're going to get hurt anyway, okay, to some degree. But I don't want you to get even more hurt by divulging information that you wouldn't want used against you, because this person in the devaluation process and stage of the situation will use that information against you to tell you about how you're not a good person, and you know you're not this, or you're not qualified to do that, or you're a liar, or whatever it is that they're going to say that you're not good at, or you're a narcissist, or whatever it is that they're going to tell you. They're going to use that information against you. And then you're going to be stuck in this place of trying to explain yourself, right? See, that's the issue, is that you get into this hole of self-explanation and trying to prove to the love bomber that you really are a good person and that you actually deserve their love. And so instead of like really having a relationship, it's you trying to explain yourself out of a problem with the stuff that they've used against you that you actually told them on your own. Do you see what I'm saying? And then they turn it around and use it with also techniques of manipulation and the technique of gaslighting to really push you into trying to convince them that you're a good person and you deserve their love. Do you see how the cycle is? And see, that cycle, it's even worse for folks who are dealing with codependency, because, you know, we actually feel when we're codependent to some degree that we need that other person, right, to define us, that without that other person we're not anything, without that other person we're lesser than, because we don't realize our own value inside of us, right? That's part of the codependency, okay? And it's not that we don't have value, it's not that we aren't precious and wonderful people, but we don't see that. And so we are codependent because we're trying to glob onto this other person because we believe that their love, if they love us, then that means that we're worthy, right? If they don't love us, then we're not worthy. And that feeds into that codependency. And so I feel that a lot of times with folks who are manipulating other people, like these types of narcissists that are using this as a supply, okay, I feel that unfortunately they can kind of feel out those people that are more likely to be able to fall for this. And especially when people are feeling not good enough, or they've gone through a toxic relationship, or they've had trouble in the past. And so they can be a target for these types of people. When we return, we'll talk about a little bit of the signs of love bombing, and then we'll answer any questions out there from any folks that are watching here live. So stay tuned. We'll talk briefly about the signs. So we'll be right back. This is Live Your True Life Perspectives with Ashley Berges.
Hey there, friends. I'm glad you're catching the live broadcast of Live Your True Life Perspectives. I've created my very own Patreon page. You can go to Patreon and you can check out my page. The link is right here. It's an amazing platform because I'm able to offer more stuff there, different stuff than I am on the Live Your True Life program, as well as on my YouTube channel. You've probably seen my YouTube channel. We put up new video content every week. And we have a lot of great content on there. But on the Patreon page, I'm able to go a step further. I'm offering group coaching sessions, private coaching sessions, as well as access to exclusive content, like the Celebrity Perspective Season 1. I won a Telly Award for that this year. You can watch all episodes right here on Patreon. I'm offering you the exclusive chance to come on the radio with me, to be live on Live Your True Life Perspectives, nationally syndicated radio show, to talk about yourself, to talk about your amazing life, and to inspire the Live Your True Life listeners. When you become a member of my Patreon page, you are directly supporting me to help other people to live their true life. I look forward to seeing you on Patreon. Let's inspire one another.
Hey there, friends. Glad to be back. And we fixed a little bit of audio issues that we had, so we're glad that y'all stayed with us. We appreciate it. Obviously, we're new on this live feed stuff, so we're getting it down. We'll eventually be interviewing some folks, too, here live on this feed, so could be very interesting. I would love to have some folks here in the community on the show as well to discuss personal insights, situations that they went through, what have you, to help us all in our situation and to help us all live our true life, because it takes a village, okay? So if you have a story that you would like to tell and you'd like to come live here on the live feed, please reach out to us in the comment section here below on the live feed, and we will reach out to you for sure. So very important to get the word out on some of these issues. You know, if you can help someone else in the community, that's so powerful, because we learn from everybody. We learn from each other, and it's positive. So there were a few questions that were on the feed, and one was about, what was it, the devaluation?
It was from Cheryl Dahl. She, the question she had was, would the devaluation stage involve let's just be friends, and I'm just not attracted to you like that?
Cheryl. Yes, that is definitely part of it. I'm just not attracted to you like that. So at one point in time, there was this large attraction. There was this, you know, connectivity, this magnetism, and then all of a sudden, bam, I'm not attracted to you anymore. I mean, so see what that makes you feel like. You know, all of a sudden you go from one extreme to another, and now they're not attracted. So then you're thinking to your head, what have I done to change? What do I need to be more attractive? You know, how did I fall out of attraction with this person? What have I done? Is it something I said, done, worn, didn't wear? And so we begin to question ourselves at the core. So definitely that's part of the devaluation stage as well. I've seen that the devaluation stage can get actually quite critical and really downright abusive. So it can be extremes of that, right? So it could be that I want to be friends, I'm not attracted anymore, to being really, really quite what I would say abusive. Putting somebody down, ridiculing them, making them feel horrible, making them feel awful. You know, I've seen even clients go into depression, even dealing with PTSD from the situation, because one, it's not expected, but two, the person that supposedly loved them so much turns on them on a dime, and it's almost like their worst enemy. So very interesting dynamics. There was one other question you said?
I believe that was all.
Okay.
It's just mostly people putting their experiences with it.
Okay. So a lot of y'all are telling us about your experiences, which are powerful, and I'm going to read through those as well, because experiences are power as well, right? We learn from these experiences. We learn what not to do, what to do. We learn the signs. So let me go through a little bit of the signs of love bombing, because this can be very important, because you might not have ever experienced it before. I'm just telling you, like, one of the number one targets for people that use this type of manipulation is someone that has been through some traumatic relationships, been through toxic relationships, maybe come out of a really painful marriage, maybe never been married, never really had somebody there, and all of a sudden they meet this person and they sweep them off their feet and they give them absolutely everything, and it's almost like a dream come true. Like, it's like, oh my God, this is really happening, like fairy tales come true. And one of the things that I want to say is that, and I'm not trying to burst bubbles here, and I'm not trying to upset anybody, but what I'm saying is that sometimes when it's too good to be true, it just is. Okay? Because I don't want to see anybody in this community get hurt. I just want, you know, think about if there's red flags, think about it. And one of the signs is that they're really quick to tell you that they think that you're their soulmate, or you're their twin flame, that kind of sort of thing. That's a big deal. And I want you to think about that, because that can be really powerful stuff, because some of you have been wanting to meet your soulmate forever, and you think that there's one soulmate, and I think that there's many people for anybody. You know, I like the idea of the soulmate thing, but then I kind of don't, and I don't agree with it. And I think that some people use that to manipulate other people, to make that person believe, oh my gosh, I've met my soulmate. And think about the things that you tell the soulmate. Think about how disarming thinking that you're with your soulmate can be. You know, another thing is the constant contact with the love bomber. You know, the constant contact, they're going to use text, they're going to use instant messenger, they're going to use Facebook Messenger, they're going to use social media, they're going to text you. You're not going to be able to get away from this person. So it might feel like this love at first sight, but what I'm saying is that it's basically kind of monopolizing all your time, energy, senses. And so really that's a big red flag. Because one of the things that we have to have when we're dating somebody, especially initially, is to have both our feet on the ground and positively have some sort of grounding where we're keeping some of that energy within ourselves to basically see the situation at hand. We need to be honest with ourselves, and we need to see truthfully what's happening around us. And so when we get caught up in the fanfare, we get caught up with all this attention, and somebody's completely bombarding us all the time with these messages, it can not only be overwhelming, but it can almost be like brainwashing. So we begin to just kind of fall into this, and the problem is that eventually the floor is going to come out from underneath us, right? Another thing is that you're going to feel very pressured to jump in very quickly. So, there might be, plans being made, having children being talked about. That's some big plans. And those are things that we don't talk about lightly, right? I mean, we can think about it, we can talk about the future, but when we're 2 months in or a month in or 3 weeks into a relationship, I mean, I get the idea of talking about stuff, but this can be like making major plans very quick. And one of the other things that I found too is that just being careful. So when you're first meeting somebody, no matter how much energy and enthusiasm and how much they're throwing your way, I want you to hold some of those things in. Some of your personal things that you haven't really told other people, I want you to kind of hold some of that information in. And I want that person to have to be around longer. I want you to see them over a period of time where it makes sense to divulge this information, because there's certain things, and it doesn't have to necessarily be bad things. I mean, I don't want to define things as bad or good, but there might be some really great things that you would like to share, but is it applicable to share with this person at this time? Have you known them long enough to share this information? Because I want you to safeguard yourself, and I'm not trying to ask you to be off-putting or standoffish, but what I think is really giving the amount of information that's necessary for the length of time that you've known one another. I also think what's important is just being aware of those red flags, okay? And being also aware of tendencies of being codependent. Because if we're coming from a codependent standpoint, or we've come from a toxic relationship that we haven't really dealt with finding our true self and understanding ourselves and creating boundaries and understanding our value and getting rid of expectations and those kind of things, and we find ourselves in another relationship, we can be a target for the person that's using this type of manipulation for control, because that's what this is that I'm going to control this person, I'm going to love bomb them, I'm going to make them feel very warm and fuzzy and very happy and all this stuff, and then I'm going to pull it out, I'm going to pull the rug out, but I'm using this to control them. Okay, and so that's the thing, is manipulation is a source of control. And I don't want to see you being controlled by somebody else, because that is not good intention. Manipulation is not a positive thing. That's an evil type thing. That's not something that should be used. I understand that some people use manipulation and might not always inherently be aware that it's manipulating other people. However, we need to be self-aware and how we're treating other people and how we're dealing with their lives, because we all have to look at ourselves in the mirror every day. And we need to be able to feel good about what we're bringing into a relationship. So, final 3 things to think about. First off, if it's moving too fast, step back. Take some time. If they're not allowing you to take some time and they're saying, hey, no, let's do this, you need to create some boundaries, okay? Because every good relationship takes time, it takes effort, it takes work. And we need to really know where each person's coming from. And if we're slow and steady, we win the race. So that's a very important thing. The second thing is that if you're already in the situation and the honeymoon phase ends really quickly, okay, this is an identifier that, yes, indeed, we're in some sort of situation that involves some sort of control and some sort of manipulation. And so you need to be aware of that, because I think the go-to for most of us is when the love bombing stops, we go to the fact that we've done something wrong. We're not good enough. We're not good enough for their love. What can we do to get back in the good graces? But I need you to be hyper vigilant aware of this, okay? have you recently in the past been in a relationship where you said, oh God, it was me. What did I do? I need to change. I need to make these changes. What can I do to change this? Because we have a tendency of trying to find the fault within, when in reality, it's not within us. And that just hurts our self-esteem and our self-worth even more. And it takes time even more to build that up and to repair that, because we're putting ourselves down and we're hurting ourselves even more. And last but not least is something that some people will agree and disagree on, but if you've gone through a series of toxic relationships, I want you to watch, the videos that I have in the toxic relationship series. And I also want you to watch the video that I recently did on Channel 21 about the 10-day challenge to live your true life, because I wrote that book and it's dedicated to the person coming out of a toxic relationship. Okay, so it really explains how and why boundaries are important, because see, in a relationship where there's love bombing and manipulation and control like this, there is no boundaries, right? Because we're giving them everything, we're accepting all this, we're telling them everything, this is amazing, and we're connected, and we're even more connected to this person, even while as we're getting that love bombing. So there really is no boundaries whatsoever, and the devaluation stage and then the discard. But something to really think about as well is, in that book I talk about self-love and understanding how to define yourself, how to value yourself, and how to understand that reasoning so that we don't fall prey to somebody trying to manipulate us in the guise of love. And that's why I call love bombing fake love, because it's not real. Because in a real love stage, there is no devaluation and there is no discard. So that's the difference. In a real love stage, it takes time. It takes time to get there. It takes time to say I love you, because you actually mean it, and you go slow and steady, and you're growing together, and you're learning from one another, and that sort of thing. And there is no devaluation, because the love is true. Because remember, to have true love, it has to be unconditional love, not love based on what you did yesterday or today. It's based on you as a person, as the soul, as the being. And so that's very powerful. So I hope this video has helped you. We will be doing live videos every Tuesday. We're trying to get an exact time for you. Trying to kind of get closer to the end of the day, but we just try to get the material out there and the information, and that's what's most important. So if you missed it live, come back and watch it later on here on the YouTube channel. By the way, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope you have, and if you haven't, please do. And also, if you like this video and it's helped you, please give us a like as well. And continue to give us some comments on love bombing, some experiences that you've had, what you've done to overcome it. And also, sometimes like the signs that I only talked about a few signs on today's video, but sometimes the signs can be different, and I'd love to hear some of the signs and some of the things that you caught that was a distinct red flag that you realized immediately you're dealing with a love bombing situation. So thank you so much for watching. Also, if there's any sort of subject matter that you would like me to cover in the future, I'd like to hear your perspective, always. Stay tuned. We'll be back here on Tuesday, but we have new videos coming up toward the end of the week too that will be uploaded on the page. And in the meantime, don't forget to live your true life.